Maybe that's better. Hello. We are hopefully live here, just doing some testing, some refreshing of the screens to see if we're live, if this is working. Go here.
Maybe that's better.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
Okay, here we go.
We are hopefully live here.
Sorry. Perfect. Looks like we're live, I think. Although it says we've got 2 waiting. So if you're here, say hi in the comments. Let me know, because the last time I tried to do this, it did not go well. I tried to go live using Facebook's platform, and that was a cluster. Hello, perfect. Steph's here, and you can hear me. Awesome. So we're gonna do the whole kill time while we wait for people to come on, while we give time for technology to do its thing and spread the word that I'm live. But once that happens, we'll be talking about The Lost Girl. We'll be answering questions. We'll be doing a reading, and all that fun stuff. So let's share all the things for one. So if you're here, share this video with your friends. Invite a friend. Send it to, you don't have to share it on your socials. Send it to someone. If you think they'd be interested in, picking the brain of an author, picking the brain of me about The Lost Girl, discovering a new book, all that jazz. And we're gonna just share the things. So in the meantime, let me know. Once you're here, let me know. Say hello. And let me know what your favorite Peter Pan adaptation is. If you're not a fan, tell me that too. So Peter Pan's been around for a very long time. Adaptations of Peter Pan are not new, but there are new ways to spin it. I have read a few different adaptations that were all wildly different. So let me know your favorite, and I will reveal mine if you don't know, as soon as we get going here. And I'm just sharing. So we're doing all the things. And then we'll talk about all the stuff, where you can get the book, and all of that. So perfect. Yeah, so like I said, this is the awkward part of it, where we just wait for people to hop on. It's been 1 week today since the book launched. So we're going to talk about it. It's doing well. My launch team, if you were part of that, has really come through. They have shared, they have read, they have reviewed. The reviews, you guys, I love. They are beautiful. Everything a writer wants to hear about their writing. I can't even, off the top of my head, think of like specifics, but I do know that one person that read it reached out and said, they finished it, then they picked it back up again just to kind of leaf through it and look at something, and got sucked right back in. So that, yay, is everything a writer wants to hear when you're thinking about putting a book out into the world, when you're little and dreaming about becoming a writer and reading books over and over and over. That's what you want people to do with yours. So I was really thrilled to hear that. I've been really thrilled with all the reviews and how much people like this adaptation, how different they said it was from other adaptations, the spin, all of that. All things that I was worried about, obviously, that you probably worry about if you're putting out an adaptation. Will it be different enough? Will the people that liked the original like it? It all seems positive. So all the feedback is confirming that I did what I set out to do. So that's been awesome. So thank you to everybody who has read and reviewed. And Steph says she enjoyed Hook. Yes, that is my favorite as well. That I was going to say is the one I grew up with, but when I was kind of preparing to launch the book, I did rediscover the Mary Martin version of Peter Pan and remembered that, I guess if you're, depends what you consider grown up with. When I was little, the Mary Martin version was already out, so we watched that. And then I think Hook came out in like 93, so I was probably 10ish. So from there it was Hook, to reveal my age, but and Hook has stayed with me for all these years. It's been one of my favorite movies. 91. One of my favorite movies, one of my favorite Peter Pan stories. We didn't really read Peter Pan when I was little, but then, so that was kind of the Mary Martin version, and then Hook was my my introduction to Neverland. And I knew after watching Hook that I wanted to create something, because I think by that point I already knew I wanted to be a writer, but I knew I wanted to create something that made me feel the way, that made others feel the way I felt when I watched Hook. Just completely sucked in to this world. Like, it made me feel something different every time I watched it. Made you like think about life in general. This idea of not growing up was like really cool when you're little, right? And then as you get older, and you see an adult kind of faced with that idea, you really think about it in a different way. So that's what I wanted to do in my book, is just make people think about things in a different way. And I set my book down, so I have to grab it. I got it out and got it ready and then set it down. So yeah, as you hop on, let me know your favorite adaptation of Hook. Let me know if you're not your favorite adaptation of Hook, your favorite adaptation of Peter Pan. Say hello. Let me know you're here. If you don't like Peter Pan, let me know that too, because somebody, let me know that in a review. Luckily, they read it anyway. They were a friend of mine, and so read it to support me, and said that even though they've never really been a fan of Peter Pan, they love this book. So there you go. You don't have to be a fan of Peter Pan to read this. I was going to try to find the review, but that would just be boring, me scrolling through. But there it is. Here it is. I don't know if it's backwards. I have that problem on TikTok. I keep posting videos of my book and it's backwards because I am an elder millennial and don't know how to flip the video on TikTok. So, but there's the book. It's beautiful. The cover's beautiful. My dear friend Kaylin Smith designed the cover. If you know her work from Plume and For Goodness Sake, and currently The House of Lowther on Webtoons. So you can check her out. She did my lovely cover. So we'll dive in here. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk We're going to do a little reading of the book and let you all ask questions. If no questions pop up, that's okay. We'll do the reading. We'll talk about where you can get it, and we'll go from there. So, getting my stream in order here. So I'll just read the back, or I'll sum it up a little bit here for those who don't know even what it's about. So I did mention that Hook was my inspiration. This technically takes place after the events of Hook. So it is kind of a sequel, but not really any of the characters except one. So it follows the same rules. Obviously, Neverland. You'll figure it out. I'll read the back here, and I'll sum it up, and that'll help make sense. So Peter Pan has come back home. If we're following the events of Hook, he rescued his children. He came back home, grew up, continued to grow up even more, grew old, and passed away, as we all do when we decide to grow up. So now we are on to the story of Peter Pan's great granddaughter. So we're trying to find out if Neverland can save Peter Pan's descendant. So Angela, the great granddaughter of Peter Pan, is dying. Doctors have given up hope, but her mother, raised on tales of a magical land of eternal youth, is not done fighting. In a desperate attempt to save her 13-year-old daughter, she sends a reluctant Angela off toward the second star to the right and straight on till morning. But Neverland is not the idyllic paradise Angela imagined. The landscape has lost its luster. The Lost Boys are aimless and desperate for a leader. The pirates are bored and ready for a fight. Led by an incompetent and erratic Captain Smee, they want Neverland for themselves and will stop at nothing to get rid of Angela. I won't read the entire back. You can get your copy and read the rest, or read it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. And so there you have it. That is kind of what it's about. The one recurring character from Hook would be Smee, because if you did see Hook, you know that he is no more. Hook has met his demise through Peter and the Lost Boys, finally. So Smee is captain. So we're going to do a little reading. Again, say hi if you're here. If you have questions, you can start thinking of questions, throw them in the chat. And let me know. And I'll get to those after. Questions about the book, questions about Neverland, about writing. Obviously, I'm on my Creative Warrior channel here, so questions about the writing process in general, anything like that. Facebook never works the way I think it's going to, so pardon me, I'm just going to share this again because I thought by tagging myself it would share on my personal page, and it did not. But throw your questions in the chat. Any questions about the book, about writing, about my other work, anything like that, throw them in the chat. And then we'll do our reading here. I will read a little bit from the beginning, and then just depending how things go, maybe another section, but we'll start with the beginning and just to set the stage. And then if you are coming to my launch party in just a few days, you can hear the rest. So we'll see. I might save the scene I want to read for my launch party. The other scene I want to read. So we're just checking. I'm just checking to make sure things are working. We'll see. I might save. Perfect. All right. we're going to do our reading. We'll start from the beginning here. Chapter 1. Fun fact, there was a prologue, and I took it out. And maybe someday I will give the prologue as a little gift to folks that join my mailing list or folks on my mailing list. So keep that in mind if you want a little sneak peek into the process and what gets cut out before the final draft. So, all right, here we go. This is chapter 1, the very beginning of The Lost Girl, a Neverland Story. The moment Angela's feet pressed into the soggy earth of her destination, she wanted to turn around and go home. The moment the damp air touched her face and the sound of waves crashing against cliffs reached her ears, Angela knew her mother's bizarre plan had worked, and she immediately wished it hadn't. When a cool breeze tickled her hair, bringing with it the smell of fresh grass, moist air, and dirt and salt water, rather than the smell of her mom's lavender perfume, she wanted to cry, not rejoice. When cold air wrapped around her and all she had to pull tighter was her thick gray sweater instead of her favorite weighted blanket, she wanted to keep her eyes shut until she was back in her window seat, in her room, holding her mom's hand. She wanted to open her tightly shut eyes and see her mom smiling back at her, reassuring her that it was okay if she didn't want to do this, that she could stay home and they would figure something out like they always did. But she knew what she would see instead. She'd heard the stories too many times. When Angela finally did open her eyes, it was not to the bright blue skies, green, lush forests, or emerald and teal seas she'd grown up hearing about. No, it was to a thick, heavy fog that obscured her view of almost everything around her. This wasn't the Neverland she knew. If it was possible to truly know a place you'd never been, Angela felt as though she knew Neverland through her mother's stories and books, and this was not the place she'd described. Maybe she was on the wrong fantastical island. Maybe this wasn't where lost boys and pirates lived together under multiple shining suns, the days burning hot until they faded away into temperate nights. Maybe she'd gone to the third star to the right instead of the second. She looked up. Where were the suns? She shivered and pulled the oversized cable knit sweater closer. Where was the warmth these two suns should provide? She could see a yellow glow behind the thick wall of fog, but nothing else. Angela shifted from one soggy foot to another and turned in a small circle in the spot where she stood. What was she supposed to do now? Then she heard her mother's voice, whispering the advice she always gave when Angela was stressed or unsure. Take a breath, darling. Calm your mind, calm your heart, and the answer will come. So Angela closed her eyes and took a deep breath through her nose, the moisture in the air coating her lungs, and then let it out through her mouth. She repeated the flow, but on the second exhale, a crack to her right made her jump. Her eyes snapped open as she turned toward the sound. Who's there? She'd meant to shout it, but it came out as more of a strangled whisper. She cleared her throat. As she squinted into the fog, looking for the source of the sound, she didn't have to squint as hard. She took another deep breath, and the air tickling her nose was just a little warmer. She reached out in front of her and could see just a little farther. She let out her breath, and the last of the fog rolled down the hills she could now see surrounding her. She pulled another breath in and looked up. There were the suns. She gave a small smile as their warmth finally reached her cheeks. Letting her breath out, she almost giggled as a warm breeze pushed the rest of the fog away and tickled the hair around her ears. Oh, there you are, Neverland, she whispered as she took a step forward and let her eyes dance over a horizon of green waves and sparkling blue pools. This looked right. This was... Who are you talking to? Angela gasped and whirled around, the spell broken. If she'd had any doubt about where she was, the scene before her confirmed she was in the right place. Standing there in a disorderly line was a wall of adolescent, disheveled boys with wild hair and narrowed eyes, each one brandishing a sword, knife, or makeshift weapon. They were all dressed in various combinations of what looked like leather or faded and ripped cloth and greenery. And they were all filthy. She took a step back and almost tripped. They all jumped at her sudden movement, but did not retreat. Angela motioned weakly around her in a feeble attempt to answer their shouted question, but they didn't wait for more of an answer. The one standing nearest to her spoke, inching his weapon closer to her with each word. "Who are you? Is he with you?" Of course, she knew immediately who he meant. "Oh, no." Her voice shook as she took a step back, eyeing the blade he was holding. She'd been looking around them, trying to get a glimpse of the world that was finally revealing itself, but when she realized what she had to tell them, these crazy-eyed children pointing weapons at her, she stopped searching and looked directly at the one who had spoken. He had bright red hair and a spattering of freckles across his nose, and he lifted an eyebrow as he waited for an answer. "I'm sorry, but he died." She tensed, waiting for their response, but they were looking beyond her. They were looking for him. Sure, he would drop from the sky with a devilish grin, laughing at the great joke he'd played on them. But there was no one else. Just her, a 13-year-old girl looking for the fastest way to get back home. Died? But how? Fighting pirates in the other world? On a great adventure? The circle they had formed around her got tighter with each question. These boys had been friends with Peter, but she also knew what they were capable of when faced with a threat. And at that moment, she was a threat. She glanced behind her, searching for a quick escape. No, he died in his bed. He was very old. Do you know how I get home? But her question was drowned out. There was a spatter of chattering at the word old, like a group of squirrels who just watched the tree with their winter nut storage go up in flames. She heard whispers of, "But he promised," and "Again?" before the red-haired boy turned back to her. "You lie. Neverland told us he was coming." She sucked in her breath at the word Neverland. It was true then. She was here. Her mom was right. She hated it when her mom was right. The redhead swiped his sword toward the landscape behind him, and the boy closest to him ducked to avoid the carelessly flung blade. She followed the motion and noticed that the last of the fog had truly faded, and that the dark and gloomy sky behind him, now visible through the receding haze, was changing before her eyes. A bright blue center was chasing off gray edges, and on the horizon a rainbow was forming over the outline of a distant mountain range. The trees were now swaying in the wind, almost vibrating with energy and life. "The suns are shining again, and the trees are dancing," the boy said. "Neverland has been a still and quiet place for a very long time. Today, it woke up." The boy backed up and lifted his chin, studying her from head to toe with sparkling green eyes. His gaze narrowed. "I'll ask again. Who are you? Why have you come?" Trying her best to ignore his blade, Angela puffed out her chest and placed her hands on her hips. Her mom's stories were true. Neverland existed. Peter Pan was real, and she was his descendant. "I am Angela Margaret Johnson, I know her name, great-granddaughter of your Pan." If she was going to embrace her heritage, this was the place to do it. But the line didn't land like she expected. "How do we know?" shouted a voice from the circle. "What if she's a pirate?" "Isn't she a lady? Ladies can't be pirates." "How did she get here?" Clearly unimpressed, the boy arched an eyebrow and stepped closer so that his freckled face was barely inches from hers. Before she could stop him, he leaned over and, his red hair tickling her cheek, sucked in her scent. He stepped back and turned toward the boys. "She smells like Peter. Neverland is awake. She could be telling the truth." Angela flinched and sniffed at her shoulder, trying to figure out what Peter Pan might smell like. "We need more proof," a voice shouted. The boy turned back to Angela. "We need more proof." She lifted her empty hand slightly and glanced down. How was she supposed to prove her heritage? The fairy dust from her mom had worn off, and she could no longer fly. She wasn't carrying any pictures, and she looked more like her mother than her grandfather. Searching her mind for any fact that might prove her identity, she realized she had a wealth of information instantly available. She'd grown up with a woman who wrote about Peter Pan for a living. Peter's granddaughter had spent her childhood listening to him tell tales of Neverland, the tales that no one else knew, and she'd spent the rest of her life writing them down and putting them out into the world. It's kind of a long story, one she wasn't sure she wanted to get into at the moment. She was feeling a little overwhelmed as it dawned on her that if her mom's plan had worked, that meant she was a million stars away, not by her side as she had been Angela's entire life. She swallowed and looked at the ground, wondering how disappointed her mother would be if Angela just turned around and came home. As she looked up, she saw dozens of pairs of legs fold and tuck under butts as all the Lost Boys sat cross-legged on the ground in front of her. I'd really rather just go, tell us your story. She sighed, pulling her sweater tighter around her. Maybe if she told them how she got there, they could tell her how to get home. She thought back to the moments that had brought her to Neverland. She started with Peter's story as her mother had told it, and then her own sad tale. And that's where I'll stop for now. So that is the opening section of The Lost Girl, a Neverland story by me. You can get it wherever books are sold, but you can get it on Amazon. The ebook is 99 cents right now. That sale ends Thursday. So if you want the ebook, you can get it for 99 cents until Thursday. Or if you know someone who loves a good deal, it's actually pretty appropriate because it's Prime Days right now. Yeah, Prime Days until the 11th, I think. Today and tomorrow. So then it'll end Thursday when Prime Days are over. Did not intentionally do that, but there you go. And then it will be $4.99, which not that big of a deal. And then it is on Kindle Unlimited if you have that, so you can read it on Kindle Unlimited. You can get it through Barnes & Noble. You can go order it from your local bookstore if it's not there, which it's only in 1 or 2 bookstores at the moment, so chances are it might not be. But you can ask them for it and they will order it for you. So if you'd like to support local and not, the big A word, you can, not that A word, you can order through your local bookstore. And yeah, so that's where you can get the book. And we had a question besides Angela, who was your favorite character in the story to write? Steph, I see what you did there. And I am gonna struggle because I don't know. Smee was super fun to write because he was so terrible. Spoilers, yes, Smee is terrible. He's a pirate. Yeah, I think Smee because he's a whiner. So I could just kind of let out my inner whiner with Smee. You didn't have to give him tact or think about his words very carefully, because he's just the worst. So yeah, he was fun. I mean, it's always fun to write the villain, right? So I think that is my answer for that. So Smee, besides Angela, who is your favorite character in the story to write? That would be Smee. He was fun. And yeah, so that is that. That is where you can get the book. If you are local, you can check out my launch party at local bookstore Hooked. We're going to be doing costumes. You're encouraged to come in a costume. You can win prizes there. There's going to be a themed drink, fairy dust, cocktail or mocktail. I'll have a local artist actually that I interviewed on my channel here doing caricatures. Obviously I'll be reading a little bit more And yeah, that's on Thursday. So if you're checking this out before then, maybe you can join if you're local to the area. And yeah, you can ask me if you come across this video later, throw your questions about the book, about writing, about anything in the comments. And unrelated to the book, but related to writing. If you're doing NaNoWriMo, join me. I am going to be doing like a 30-day draft challenge, which is basically what Nano is, but I'll be sending out emails throughout the month to those who sign up for the challenge, emails filled with encouragement and tips and videos meant to help you through the month. And I've got a Facebook group going where you can join and get encouragement from other people participating in NaNoWriMo. So be sure to sign up. You can find Creative Warrior on Facebook. You can get the links from this channel. I think you can find it. You can find Creative Warriors, the group where I talk about it all the time, on Facebook too. I'll throw links in the comments as well. So if you need some encouragement and some camaraderie and a tribe to help support you during NaNoWriMo, you can find that on any of those things. You can follow me and my writing journeys on author Allison Spooner on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, basically everywhere. And even on Threads, although I don't post there, really. But I'm not really active on X. So yeah, that's everything tonight. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for checking this out. If you're checking it out at a later time, hope you enjoy the little sneak peek at The Lost Girl. Again, The Lost Girl, a Neverland story, available now. It makes a great gift. So I was told numerous times by a lot of people and in the reviews that you'll see on Amazon that it is perfect gift for the whole family. I list the age like 11 to 18, so it's considered young adult, but oh, perfect. What reader age would you recommend? That's what I put because I think anybody younger than 11 might have a hard time reading it. I'm not even 11, I think should be good. But that's just to keep it in the because I had to pick an age range for Amazon, but basically everyone. No, it's family friendly. Read it with the kids. Read it with your younger kids. Just read it with them if you're worried. Obviously, it's made clear right off the bat that Angela is sick. So if illness or cancer or anything like that is a trigger warning for you, just be aware of that. And there's pirates and fighting and things like that, but there's really no like blood or anything like that. So it's not super violent. Yeah, but so the Amazon reviews have said that it's fun for the whole family. I shouldn't say fun, but it's good for the whole family. And it is listed as 11 to 18, so it's technically a young adult book. And is there kissing? There is no kissing. This is not a kissing book. I have made it very clear that Angela has other things on her mind. She is not thinking about boys. She is not concerned, and she's surrounded by like lost boys anyway who have grown up in Neverland and are unruly and rowdy and dirty. So she's not thinking about that. She's got bigger problems. She's got Smee to deal with and, her own mortality. So no kissing. But I do say there is love, there is friendship, there is growth, and all of that. There are plenty of emotions going around without kissing. So there you have it. No kissing is not a kissing book. and some sword fighting, but no like violence. And yeah, that is The Lost Girl. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you can check out all the socials. I'll put links in the comments for you to check out. And if you're local, check out my launch party. The 99-cent sale ends Thursday. Shop from your local bookstores. Check out, you can get it at your local library too. Just go in and ask. Actually, it's very encouraged, even if you don't think you'll check it out from the library. If you go in and just tell them that you want the book there, they can order it. So, pardon me. A little hiccup there. So yeah. Thank you so much for believing in me and this story and joining me on this adventure. Hope to see you out there in Neverland in the socials because it feels like sometimes people never grow up on the socials. So there you go. I'll leave you with that tidbit of wisdom for the evening. Have a wonderful rest of your night. Have a wonderful week and go fight for your creativity. Bye, all.